Today, the world is watching a small point on the map that holds enormous importance for the global economy. That place is the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway lies between Iran and Oman. In some areas, it is only about 30 kilometers wide, yet despite its size, it is one of the most important oil transportation routes in the world. According to several energy agencies, around 20% of the world's crude oil travels through this strait every single day. That equals roughly 20 million barrels of oil per day. In simple terms, nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow passage. Major oil exporting countries in the Middle East rely heavily on this route. These include Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. All of these countries use the Strait of Hormuz to ship their oil to global markets. The main destinations include Asia, Europe, and parts of the United States, making this route a critical link in the global energy supply chain. However, there is a major concern. The Strait of Hormuz sits in a region with high political and military tensions. Over the past several years, conflicts between Iran and Western countries, along with broader instability in the Middle East, have made this strait one of the most sensitive strategic points in the world. There have been incidents involving attacks on oil tankers, naval confrontations, and repeated threats to close the strait. Each time tensions rise in this region, the global energy market reacts almost immediately. So the key question is, what would happen if the Strait of Hormuz were actually closed? The first and most immediate impact would likely be a sharp surge in global oil prices. This is because a massive portion of the world's oil supply would suddenly be unable to reach international markets. When oil prices rise, the effects quickly spread beyond the energy sector. Transportation costs increase, manufacturing costs rise, electricity prices can also climb. Eventually, consumers around the world end up paying more for goods and services. Financial markets also respond quickly to this kind of risk. Whenever tensions escalate around the Strait of Hormuz, investors often move away from risky assets. This can lead to volatility in global stock markets and create uncertainty in the broader economy. Countries that rely heavily on imported oil could be affected the most, especially in Asia. Nations such as Japan, South Korea, and India, along with many countries in Southeast Asia, depend heavily on oil supplies from the Middle East. If this critical route were disrupted, their energy supply chains could be immediately affected. Of course, many countries and energy companies have tried to prepare backup plans. These include strategic oil reserves, alternative pipeline routes, and efforts to diversify energy sources. However, the reality is that no other route in the world can fully replace the Strait of Hormuz. That is why it is often described as one of the most important energy choke points on Earth. So whenever tensions rise in the Middle East, the attention of the entire world turns to this small stretch of water, because what happens here can influence oil prices, global markets, and the daily lives of people across the planet. And that is exactly why the Strait of Hormuz is widely considered one of the most strategically important energy routes in the world.